The Appropriations Committee approves a fiscal year 17 police budget. The details ahead.
And later, a wrap-up of the Youth Safety Committee's latest event with a special interview from the police chief.
More to come, the results are in for the mid-year report on students' learning. See where our students rank compared to other communities.
Also, an exciting new addition to the town that will get residents to walk. We have the details coming up.
Those stories and much more ahead on ELCAT News Update.
Good evening, I'm Rebecca Green.
And I'm Jake Brady.
We begin tonight with a meeting of the Police Chief Search Committee held on Friday afternoon. Chairman Gerald Highland opened the meeting and the committee immediately went into executive session after a roll call vote. The purpose of Friday's meeting was to narrow down the candidates for police chief to 3 finalists who are scheduled to be interviewed by the Board of Selectmen at their next meeting held on Monday, February 29th at 6 p.m. in the Town Hall.
Going off that topic regarding the police department, we have an update on their budget.
On Tuesday, February 23rd, the Appropriations Committee met to consider a motion that it had tabled at its last meeting on February 9th. The committee recommended funding the overtime account at $250,000 and designating an additional $50,000 specifically for the hiring of an additional patrol officer. At that meeting, Chairman Eric Madison and members of the committee expressed concern over the decision by the Board of Selectmen to cut funds from the overtime account without a plan to address structural factors in the police department that create overtime costs. On tabling that motion, Madison had asked the board to work with the chief to prepare a plan for the Appropriations Committee to show how it would keep overtime costs at the $200,000 level approved in a 2-to-1 vote by the Board of Selectmen. Also at that meeting, Interim Town Administrator Greg Neffinger proposed a month-by-month review of operations with more frequent communication between himself and the chief. Member Sam Pizzanelli, reviewing the overtime data provided by the chief, said holding the overtime account to $250,000, quote, is not going to happen. Member James Broderick then proposed an amended motion to fund the police budget to include $300,000 in the overtime account. The committee then voted unanimously to recommend the additional funding to the voters at town meeting.
Interim Town Administrator Greg Neffinger was also in attendance at another meeting. Neffinger presented the idea of creating a human resources department for the town at the latest Board of Public Works meeting.
Recently, the Appropriations Committee asked the Board of Selectmen to gather feedback from town departments on their thoughts about this idea.
If created, the Human Resources Department would have an HR director who would be specifically trained in that field to serve all town government and school department HR functions.
We would hope to hire somebody and then have them look at the whole town and give suggestions among the departments, and DPW being under the Board of DPW and through Bob, and talking about how that would actually work, and the same thing would happen with the school department also. So,
Board of Public Works Chair John Maybury expressed concerns.
I think what might be important or different that we have to really understand is in the private world, the president and or senior leaders hire the human resource manager and they pretty much tell them, this is the way I want to run the culture of my corporation or my organization. So that's pretty clean when you get your instruction from a CEO or a board of directors to the HR and they describe the culture of an organization. But as a municipality, I think what we have to do is make sure as we're considering who we're going to hire and what they're going to be responsible for, that we understand the flavor of a municipality.
Neffinger then clarifies the HR director's specific roles.
From my observation in West Springfield, the Human Resource Director would just be there as a resource. So even though the structure was different than East Long Meadow, where everyone was under the mayor, basically, if a department was going to hire someone or if there was union negotiations, the human resource person was there with the department head, and pretty much the department head was known to be the person who was really, spearheading the ideas and the concept.
So that, I totally agree with that concept, that they're there to help, they're there to guide, they're there to do some postings, maybe help us find some of the best candidates, maybe help write up job descriptions, maybe help, in those tougher negotiations where we're looking for input rather than go right to a lawyer. Maybe we actually go internal to the HR manager and say, hey, here's what we're working with. What do you think we can do within the town's parameters to kind of work both sides of this negotiation? And then only then do we go, to council. That would save us all some money and
Absolutely.
might expedite the process a little too.
I think it's going to add a lot of value to the town, and we probably should have had it a lot sooner than this.
Turning to another town meeting, the latest Charter Commission meeting provides an update on distribution plans.
I did get word today that our town clerk will be handling that. He has already begun the quest for putting things out to bid for the printing and distribution, and he has a rough timeline of it. So he had spent most of the days testing voting machines today, so I will get the update on that. He plans on really attacking it, I believe, after the preliminary election. However, he is already laying groundwork out to get quotes.
Switching gears to school news, the latest school committee meeting provided the leadership team an opportunity to present students' test results and an updated status on where the school district is in relation to the educational goals.
So it's the mid-cycle, just quickly going through our theory of action that we're looking to strengthen core instruction, have a safe, nurturing, respectful learning environment, and develop collaborative leadership. If we do this, we feel that our students not only will develop 21st century skills, but as they go through our grades, they'll be able to work collaboratively, think critically, and problem solve.
Principals from the East Long Meadow Public Schools shared their data that concluded impressive results.
That we're really proud of is if we looked at last year's winter to this year's winter, we're ahead in both ELA and math from this year's winter scores as compared to last year's. So that was great.
Significant fall to winter gains in all areas. And then we also took a look at the data over the course of the last few years. We've seen a gain of 16 percentage points in our beginning of the year fall data over the last 4 years. So going up from 60% in the fall in 2012 to 76% now. And then in math, we've seen an 18% increase, going from 53% at or above proficient to 71% in the fall this year. So we've seen some pretty significant growth.
Superintendent Gordon Smith wraps up the presentation on a high note, overlooking the overall achievements.
We're not always able to bring you 5 years of longitudinal data, so that was something that we were very excited to do. Just quick conclusions. It really is a tribute not only to all of you for supporting our goals over the last 5 years, but some incredible work across the district by all our employees in the district. Without everybody's effort, we wouldn't have achieved these results. So you have a 20 student growth percentile, 20-point increase in ELA, which places us into that above average growth. You have an 18 student growth percentile point increase in math, which also places us in above average growth. We have the smallest CPI achievement gap, and that was the big change in 2011. They were looking at goals now that show you're reducing your achievement gap. And so we have right now the smallest CPI achievement gap in both ELA and math if you were looking at the other LPVC districts. And we have highest student growth percentile gains in ELA and math when compared to those same districts.
One asset that contributed to the students' success was the upgraded technology. Last year, laptop carts were provided for classrooms. One example of the updated technology leading to success takes us back to earlier this fall, where students used the Mac laptops to learn coding, program robots, and figure out real-life situations.
Also at that meeting, student representative Elena Tilley uncovered this week's local star.
With sports, Marina Wilkins won the Western Mass Diving Championship, which is pretty awesome.
Marina Wilkins, a sophomore at East Long Meadow High School, took home the crown at the Western Massachusetts Girls Swimming and Diving Championship with an 11 dive score of 436.1. Congratulations to Marina. In local news, the East Long Meadow Bike Trail is expected to be more populated in the near future due to hopeful plans from one eager resident.
Stephen Graham of East Long Meadow proposed a flavorful idea to the planning board last week. Currently, Graham owns the depot building that's located on the bike trail. His plans are to restore the building into an ice cream shop.
I own the train depot. I've owned it for probably 5 years now, believe it or not. I bought it from the owner of the land, Jay LaFave, and the reason I purchased it was to make sure it didn't disappear. So I leased the land from Jay, and I've thought about doing a number of things on it and ventured it around. Actually had a conversation with George a few years ago and spoke with Robin. She suggested I come in and talk to the planning board. And what I would like to do with it at this point is turn it into an ice cream shop in its present location and keep it intact and as original as possible, given whatever code requirements might be necessary to accomplish this. And so I'm happy to try and answer any questions I can for you, but the basic idea is to, one, preserve it in the original condition, both inside and out, and two, to add something to the town by turning it into an ice cream shop.
The depot building is not registered as historic, so Graham is allowed to alter the building into whatever he wishes. The planning board also reviewed any parking issues that could occur. Overall, the planning board was pleased with the idea and approved for Graham to move on to the next step of preparing for business.
That's a great idea, because I know so many different ideas have been batted around as to what to do with it, where to put it. But for short-term simplicity, even the 4th of July Carnival, I think that would be a huge asset. I would love to see that.
More for local news, the Youth Safety Committee continues to work hard to increase awareness about the drug epidemic. The committee held a film screening last week of The Anonymous People, a groundbreaking documentary that displays the dangers of drugs.
Special vendors, counselors, nurses, and other professionals attended the event to provide audience members advice and resources.
Audience members were given the opportunity to ask questions to learn more about the drug epidemic.
Police Chief Doug Mellis was also in attendance at the film screening. ELCAT sits down with Mellis to learn why it is so important for these types of events to be put on for the community.
We're just trying to put it out there to people to talk about it, to be aware of it, and to take the steps to seek more help if you think you may be having a problem. It's multifaceted as far as the education, the awareness. Now you know. This is what's going on. The potential is there. Does it mean 9 out of 10 kids at the high school are heroin addicts? Absolutely not. Could they fall down and go down that road? Potentially. But I think with education and awareness, kind of like what they did years ago, this is not a DARE program, all right? No one's making money off of this. We just want to enlighten what we're trying to offer to the people of what is actually going on. We tell you when the cars are being broken in on your street. We tell you when the houses are being broken into. Well, now we're telling you that there's an epidemic that's going across the Commonwealth throughout the country called heroin. I had an opportunity a few weeks ago to sit in with the Senate President, Senator Rosenberg, DA Clooney, and Senator Welch. He had a gathering of medical professionals in Senator Welch's office in Springfield. And I kind of bogarted my way in there because I just feel that law enforcement needs to continue to have a seat at the table to hear what's being discussed. Because Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, things are normal. Offices are open, medical appointments are made. But afterwards and on weekends, we're the ones that are being called. We're the ones that are left to try to interpret what type of help we can provide, where we can go with individuals. As we've learned, beds are huge. This is a long-term treatment process. It is not like take another pill and you're cured. These addictions last for years. Some are able to turn their lives around, but a lot of them are going to be are working to stay sober the rest of their lives.
Now it's time for Library Learning,
where we let you know what events are coming up at the East Long Meadow Public Library.
First up, the first ever indoor mini golf tournament. The Friends of the Library are hosting their first annual mini golf fundraiser called A Whole Lot of Fun. This event is for all ages and will include raffle prizes and different themes portrayed throughout the course. The free event takes place on Saturday, March 5th, starting at 10 a.m.
The next event will get you on the right beat. Learn how to play the ukulele by one of the experts himself. Register to join in on the musical fun that will take place on Wednesday, March 9th at 6 p.m. in the library community room.
Well, that will do it for us tonight on this edition of ELCAT News Update.
Be sure to watch meetings on demand at our ELCAT YouTube channel, ELCAT 01028.
Follow us on Facebook and watch us on cable channel 191. I'm Rebecca Green.
And I'm Jake Brady. Until next time, good night.